There's a moment in London's history that no one saw coming when Donald Trump, the former US president, marched right up to a royal guard in order to salute, only to be met with the kind of silence that echoed louder than any political speech. But that silence, it wasn't ignorance, it was protocol, and what followed? It left Buckingham Palace frozen. It reminded the world that some traditions don't bow to power, not even to presidents. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you respect real discipline, and subscribe for more powerful Royal Guard moments that prove strength isn't always loud. It started on a breezy London afternoon, the kind where the sky is more steel than blue, and the Union Jack flaps with just enough pride to remind you where you are. The gates of Buckingham Palace stood tall, unshaken, as a sleek line of jet-black SUVs rolled in like shadows cast by authority. The cars were unmistakably American, tinted windows darker than a winter night, heavy armor underneath, and that quiet but arrogant hum of "We Matter." Tourists leaned over the barriers, phones raised high, eager to capture whoever thought they were important enough to pull up to a royal courtyard like they owned it. Then, he stepped out, Donald Trump, in a navy overcoat that gleamed like it had just been pressed by the Queen's tailor himself. That iconic red tie fluttered slightly in the wind as he adjusted his collar and surveyed the scene, not with wonder, but with calculation. Like a man eyeing real estate potential, not history, this place, he muttered to his aide, loud enough for staff nearby to hear. "Still running the Cosplay Act, huh? You'd think they'd swap the Halloween outfits for real security." No one responded, not because they didn't hear, because they've heard worse, and because British restraint is an art form. Across the courtyard stood a figure who had been there long before the motorcade arrived, and would remain long after it left, Warrant Officer James Holloway, age 39. Motionless. Centered. Resolute, clad in a crimson tunic pressed to perfection, boots that could double as mirrors, and a black bearskin hat taller than most toddlers. To the casual eye, just another ceremonial guard, but Holloway wasn't just part of the decor. This man had led evacuation patrols in Iraq, secured UN corridors in Kabul, and held his position under enemy sniper fire while civilians fled to safety. His record wasn't measured in medals, it was written in scars, and now, he stood perfectly still, because that's what he was trained to do. A Trump, meanwhile, had noticed him. "That one," he said, jabbing a finger through the air as if choosing a dessert. "Let's see if he knows who's boss." His aide shifted nervously. "Sir, this isn't scheduled," but Trump was already moving, swaggering across the courtyard toward the guard, cameras rising like a digital forest behind the rope lines. Tourists stopped whispering. Phones stopped shaking, everyone sensed it, something unscripted was about to unfold. "Nice get up," Trump said loudly, standing just feet away from Holloway. "Is this from that Bridgerton show? You folks love a bit of drama, huh?" The guard didn't flinch. "You know," Trump continued, "in the US, soldiers salute their president. I've had generals, Navy SEALs, even French colonels salute me. Respect." Then he raised his hand in a mock salute, exaggerated. Awkward. Arrogant. "You salute your president, don't you?" he said. "Well, I'm a president. Still am, to a lot of people. So go on, salute your ally. That's an order." The courtyard froze, some tourists laughed awkwardly. Others lowered their phones, most just waited. Holloway remained still, eyes locked on the invisible horizon he was trained to see. Hands fixed on his rifle with surgical precision. Not ignoring the man before him, just not breaking protocol for ego. And right there, right then, it changed. This wasn't political anymore. It wasn't comedy. It was a clash of worlds, between someone who demands respect, and someone who earns it through silence. Behind Trump, his aide whispered urgently, "Sir, he's not allowed to respond." Trump waved him off. "Relax. Just a little salute. Make an ally feel seen." At the rope line, a little girl whispered, "Mom, is he allowed to do that?" Her mother hesitated. "No, sweetheart. But some people think rules don't apply to them." Hey, quick pause. If this moment already has your heart racing or your head shaking, do us a favor, tap the like button and subscribe for more real stories of discipline, tradition, and quiet power. You don't want to miss the next one. Trump turned to the crowd. "Is this guy frozen? Is he on strike?" he joked. One American tourist called out, "He's not going to move, sir." That's the point. But Trump didn't back off. He took another step closer. "You think you're better than me, huh?" he muttered. "Standing there like you're carved out of stone. I said salute me. Still, nothing, and for the first time, his tone shifted from performance to pressure. The crowd felt it, the laughter was gone, what remained was tension, coiled tight in every breath. An elderly man near the front, wearing a faded Royal Navy pin, spoke just loud enough for those near him to hear that men held position under RPG fire in Basra. "He's not pretending." A teenager turned to him. "Why doesn't he just talk back?" "Because he already won," came the reply. Trump turned once more toward Holloway, visibly agitated. "You're a soldier, right? You take orders. I gave you one." The silence stretched, and then, finally, Holloway moved, just his hand. A slight, formal repositioning of the rifle grip, subtle. Controlled. A soldier's way of saying, "This conversation is over." Then, he spoke, "This post answers to the crown, not to noise." The words hit the air like a gun salute in a chapel. No shout. No anger, just a fact, delivered like a verdict. Trump blinked. Opened his mouth. Closed it. For the first time all day, he didn't know what to say. The silence was volcanic, and then movement from the palace side gate. Out stepped Major Eliza Radcliffe, Royal Household Protocol Office, sharp uniform, sharper gaze. Her steps? Surgical. Her presence? Unmistakable. "Mr. Trump," she said with calm authority, "I must ask that you return to the designated viewing area. This space is reserved for active ceremonial duties." Trump tried to grin. "I was just saying hello. He's a good actor." She didn't blink. "Sir, they're not actors. They're soldiers." The crowd stirred. Someone whispered, "Finally." Trump looked around, and for the first time, no one was looking back. No phones, no cheers, no attention. They were all watching Holloway, the man who never moved, the man who never cracked. Trump turned back toward his SUV, muttering, "Didn't know you were all so sensitive about your statues." But Radcliffe didn't respond. She didn't need to, because sometimes the strongest answers are the ones left unspoken, and behind her, Holloway stood as he had since the beginning, unshaken. Unbothered. Unyielding. As Trump walked away, something strange happened. A young boy near the rope line lifted a hand in salute, just a small, shy motion, then another, then two American tourists, then silence again, but this time, it was reverent. You could feel it in the air, a collective understanding that real power doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it stands, and in a world of noise, that kind of strength? It silences everything. Trump reached the motorcade, but the silence didn't follow him, it stayed. Behind. He paused at the open car door, looking back one last time. Not at the palace, not at the tourists, but at the motionless figure in red. Holloway hadn't shifted a single inch. Not for power. Not for provocation. Not for a man who once held the nuclear codes, and somehow, that stillness spoke louder than anything Trump had ever said. The tourists didn't cheer, they didn't mock, they simply stood quiet, respectful, changed. A teenage girl near the front whispered, "He didn't even blink." An American woman murmured, "That's the first time I've seen him lose an argument." Her husband added, "No, that's the first time he realized he wasn't even part of the conversation." And slowly, like a spell breaking, the crowd began to move, not away, but forward. Toward a new understanding. Toward the realization that discipline outlasts authority, that the loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest presence. Trump got into the vehicle, the door closed with a soft final click, and as the convoy pulled away, not a single phone was raised. Not a single wave sent him off, because in that moment, no one cared where he was going, they only cared about what they had witnessed at behind them. Warrant Officer Holloway resumed the posture he had never really left, straight. Still. Focused. As if none of it had happened, and maybe, to him, it hadn't, because duty isn't measured in drama. It's measured in stillness. In restraint. In refusing to be moved, even when the world expects you to yield. And now, we turn to you. Do you think respect should be commanded, or earned in silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read every single one. If this moment inspired you, hit that like button. Share this story with someone who thinks authority always wins. And make sure to subscribe, because we've got more true stories from the Royal Guard that prove real power doesn't demand a spotlight. It endures without it. Watch our next episode, waiting on your screen now, and witness another moment when silence wasn't weakness, it was the answer.